Welcome to Team Radical's presentation on historical inaccuracies and its effect on Native American students. First, we'll start off with a little history about where these inaccuracies come from. And you need to know that Native Americans had their own educational system long before the European settlers arrived. It involved oral methods, as pointed out by Juno, such as prayer, storytelling, and memory skills. In this presentation, we're going to look at the historical inaccuracies that still are present today in the educational system and how it affects the Native American students that are currently in school. And as Juno points out, they were thriving on this educational system. It allowed them to keep their cultural identity and pass on the skills, ideas, and traditions that were needed for their tribe. When the European settlers arrived, they did not view this as a normal way of education and sought to impose their own ideas of a normal society on the Native Americans. This undermining of the natives' traditional education system eventually led to the creation of the boarding schools that we have all read about. And these boarding schools were systematically attempting to remove the cultural identity from the native youth from their tribes. And by doing this, it negatively affected the Native American youth. This negative effect can actually still be seen today, and one of the places that we can see this is in textbooks. Textbooks for the traditional American education system portray Native Americans in a negative light as violent, as a people who will hinder progress. As one of our sources, Kiera Serser, points out, these microaggressions towards Native youth thwart the opportunities for them to have a trusting relationship with their teachers, with their administrators, and even with their families, because they're being told that their culture is bad. And this portrayal as being the bad guy was done in the American writing so that they did not come off as the bad guy. They were the people who were bringing civilization to the West when the West was quote-unquote conquered. These facts, as are written in the textbooks, have been noticed by the National Congress of American Indians. In 2019, they had a study, and they found that 87% of state standards make no mention of Native Americans beyond 1900, and 27 states entirely omit Native American individuals from their K through 12 curriculum. The study points to the fact that Native American history is being omitted from the actual American history books, and this causes a problem as it makes it so that Native Americans cannot remove themselves from this negative portrayal that they have in the textbooks. In an article written by Holter et al., they looked at the 8th grade history textbook in Montana, and what they noted was that Native Americans in the textbooks were again blamed for all the violence that happened without recognizing that the white colonizers were also responsible for this interaction, but were never blamed at all. These ideas, these biases start showing themselves in everyday life for the Native American students. Kiera Serser, in her article, found a New Mexico school campus that hired a police officer, even though previously there were no crime or violence issues, but because Native American students were present, they hired the police officer as a precaution. By doing this, we can go back to the earlier claim by Kiera Serser that the students and the faculty do not trust each other, and by not trusting each other, they do not have a good working relationship, and that the students, again, are suffering from portrayals of being violent and unruly. The biases that we've discussed are explored in an article from 2018 called Reclaiming Representations and Interrupting the Cycle of Bias Against Native Americans, written by Eason, Brady, and Freiberg. And they examine the difference between what happens when a school environment has only the negative connotations of Native students versus what happens when the Native students have access to their culture and can represent it at the school. This group found that when you just have the negative connotations and the students being stripped of their identity, culture, even their language, they do not do well in school. They are well below what the state has for academic standards, and they struggle in the school environment. The flip side to this is the group found that when the students could have native singing and their native dances, they rose to well above what the academic standard was for learning and performed very well in the school environment. And the National Council of American Indians actually agrees with this, as they point out that when this happens in a school system or setting, there is a 20% leap in the academic performance of the native students. This leads to solutions to help get native students the representation and recognition that they deserve. The first solution is to have native peoples involved in the education process by allowing them to have a say in how they are portrayed in textbooks, how they are portrayed in movies, other media. This allows them to build trust with the rest of the American community and also help them shed that negative bias that is portrayed currently. A second solution is to make sure that the native peoples have their full history taught to teachers during the training process. This will help teachers understand the cultural nuances of the native students and how to include them in the classroom and make them have the best chance for academic success. An article done by Sleater in 2012 points to research that has shown the effective professional development for teachers can improve their cultural competence and reduce implicit biases. The improvement in cultural competence and reducing the implicit biases helps these students, again, to perform well at the academic skills that are being asked of them. A quote by the article written by Deere in 2015 ties that all together by saying that by including the voices and perspectives of the native peoples, teachers and administrators can create a more culturally responsive and relevant education system that meets the needs of the Native American students who have been neglected by the educational system. Unfortunately, the inaccuracies and biases are still very prevalent in our educational system, as many states still have not implemented ways for Native American history and culture to be included in the classroom, and thus the Native students are still overlooked and still struggling. Overcoming the challenges faced by Native American students in the education system is going to be an ongoing process. We can make progress through the commitment to accurate representation, cultural responsiveness, teacher training, and community engagement. By recognizing rich history, contributions, and contemporary presence for Native Americans in the education system, we can work towards having equity and justice, ensuring that the students from Native American backgrounds have equal opportunities to succeed and thrive in our diverse learning environment we find ourselves in today.